The deck that I'm actually most comfortable with, and we'll probably just start with this because I can do some great detail on this, is the Dwarf Deck. So the Dwarves consist of Quartart, the Arcane Runemaster, Mount Fingar, the Frozen Peak. We've got Raylene, the Gatekeeper of Fignar's Peak, and we've got the Frozen Realm, which I've actually got. It's actually double-sided, but I've got it sleeved. So, I just want to mute my headphones here because for some reason it's still making noise. There we go. So I've built my deck consistently with how I expect the 4K to go. I'm still working out my side deck. I am still open to opinions. I'm running... just to give you an idea, if you guys aren't familiar with Legions, I'll kind of go over it. So, Quartart is the Warlord. The Synergy, and the Guardian aren't really able to be used until the Realm is pierced. That happens after 3 turns. Quartart has a once per cooldown ability, costs 2. You can draw the top 5 cards of your deck, rearrange them, and then draw 1, which is really cool. The Synergy lets you return 2 cards on the field to the owner's hand, and then lets you manifest 2 Frostwolves with a very powerful ability called Frostbite. And Frostbite, I'll go into it later, but it halves the opposing warrior's attack before damage calculation. So a 1 versus 1 wolf would have its attack halved prior to being destroyed, which is very interesting. So, and then the Raylene. So I mentioned that you can't really use these guys before the Veil is pierced. That's not necessarily true. The Guardian has at the beginning of the game, after Mulligan's ability, like all Guardians do. And this one says, after Mulligans, you can target 1 card on the field, return it to the owner's... You can target a player and have them put a card from their hand on the bottom of the deck. So it's a little bit of hand control. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best opening abilities, just very generic. And I love the dwarves. They're a very underrated archetype. I guess it's not an archetype. It's a very underrated legion. The Blastforge, and what we'll get into, is the archetype here. So there's a few cards to go over here that aren't really Blastforge related. And these are ones that I've kind of... There's obviously a few here in the battle deck that I've thrown in. There's a few that I think are very powerful from Ravage Lands, such as Journey Through Glacier Pass. This card can only be activated if you have only 1 dwarf on your side of the field. So as you're being taken down by your opponent, you only have 1 dwarf left. You activate this, and then they can only attack with 1 warrior this turn. So it kind of stops that onslaught, prevents you from being overrun. And this is particularly effective against Titans, because Titans are, as it's been called, they're the big bad of the meta. So they're the, and I'll go over that deck tech as well. You can find that here, and I'll also post separate videos on YouTube. So let me know what you guys think here. And yeah, so going into some of, so this is just like Ravage Lands cards. I've pulled these aside. Runecast Reverberation. This card actually probably looks really familiar for those of you who are following the 4K. This is actually the art for the top, I believe, 2 to 8th place players get this art on a mat. Beautiful art. It's like 4K art, so I love it. And the cost to play this card is to reveal a Unified in your hand and shuffle it into the deck. So it does have hand disadvantage, but it's, in my opinion, with dwarves, you only have 70 damage counter max. There's not as much healing as in other decks, so it's nice that it has a lot of these cards that are hand advantage, shuffle it in related. You can play into that. There's a lot of cards in this game that let you do that, and this lets you target 5 Unifieds or Fortifieds in your eradication zone or in your discard pile and shuffle them back in the deck, and that synergizes super well with a lot of different cards in the deck. as well, but I mean you're playing against demons who have an eradication effect in their new synergy and ravaged lands. You're playing against Titans as well. It's one of these things where if your main card, your Vampire Baby Dune, your Kindlehost, your your main Exalted that you want to play because you can only run one Exalted, if that gets eradicated, that kind of slows down some of your gameplay is in a lot of decks for sure. So leaning into this theme, just to kind of go along with the eradication, cards I like to play, like Kelter's Explosive Kit. This card, not only you pay 6 to search for a Blastforge, which there's a lot of Blastforge in the deck, we'll get into it, but if you can eradicate it, add a Blastforge card from your discard to your hand. That can be a warrior, can be a fortified, can be a unified. You add that back to your hand, it's eradicated. This lets you shuffle it back. So you can kind of lean into the erad. So things like Drain the Magic Quarry, which I've actually got in my side deck here, I believe. I run it at a 3 because Drain the Magic Quarry, I can eradicate all the unifieds, doesn't matter, and then as long as I have Runecast Reverberation, I can place them on my deck in whatever way I want. And I've been told this is a lot more control build than some of the other Dwarf players play. A lot of people play fast and loose. There's a lot of ways to conscript a lot of Dwarves in a turn, get a lot of them on the field, and I probably only have 15 Dwarves in this deck, which is quite low from what I've been told. So again, you'll look at your battle deck, you'll kind of see the initial strategy that's in there, and I've probably got fewer Dwarves than comes in the battle deck, which is interesting. Well, I got my side deck out, and we'll just talk about it. This is one I'd almost recommend for every side deck. This is Land of Defiance. This is your anti-angel card. Right now this card's about $30, Nerds Cafe. I'm not sure what other people are selling it for, what the other value is, but it costs 20 Bloodborne to play, removes all holy counters on the field. So when you're going against angels, this is a very powerful card to be able to, if you've got ways of getting them to use their negates for the turn, because you'll find yourself with a board, they'll have a board full of negates, and you can maybe activate 3 fortifies and only one will go through in a turn. It's really nice to have this in your back pocket, and they're trying to resolve these effects, and they don't actually have the holy counters to be able to remove to activate the effects. So it's a very powerful card as well. Yeah, we'll get into the side deck here in a minute. I don't want to waste time on that. It's not a waste of time, it's just there's a lot of cards like that, like Magic Shifting Sands, Magic Void Hollow. There's certain things that you'll just find in every side deck. The beautiful things about Magic Shifting Sands is it's a common, and I put it as a 3 of in almost every side deck. It's just really nice to have. Nisty's Warcleaver is not a Blastforge card, and it doesn't get an eradication effect, but this is one that's a very powerful negate. And with the retrieve ability with some of the warriors, they have a ability to target a unified or fortified out of their hand. And because retrieve only activates on cards of the same legion, it's beautiful to be able to get a card that negates and then pops, even though it is 12 to do that. It's a very powerful way to break your opponent's board. You're going against Mythical Beast, you're going against demons, you're going against the early stages of angels. This is an extremely powerful card because they can't just build their board enough to start doing any of their effects. Dire the Blastworth Survivor. This is one I had to read a couple of times. It took me a bit. You pay 4, you have to discard a Blastforge card, and then you get to conscript a warrior from your discard pile, and then you get an additional conscript for the turn. So with the phrasing, the way this card works is you don't actually target the card before you send. So you can actually discard a Blastforge warrior. You can actually discard the card you're going to revive, or conscript from the discard. And then that way you could literally play that before you conscript for the turn, and you've already got 3 warriors conscripted. And there's a lot of support cards. There's cards like do I have it in my side anymore? I think I might have taken it out. It's like Scaling Fignar's Peak, and you can only activate it if you've conscripted 3 Dwarf Warriors this turn, but it clears the it lets you clear the board at no cost, or it lets you return 2 things to the owner's hand, and it lets you manifest Frost Wolves. So it's just another way that the Dwarf lets you play without having to use up your Bloodborne. And it's very easy to say, oh wow, Dwarves are expensive to play. But there's lots of things, lots of examples like that, which are free, that come in Ravaged Lands, which are kind of answers for some of those big bad boys out there, right? So next we're looking at, and I just pulled it out here, Shatter on the Frozen Anvil. Speaking of expensive cards to play, it's an uncommon card, not that the card's expensive, but it costs 10 Bloodborne, and you have to mill the top 2 cards of your deck. I like the mill. I played into Bounty Realm Dwarves. I played into, it's nice to have lots of Dwarves in the discard for certain synergistic effects like Blastworth Armory. I'll fix that here when I draw it. I don't think that's the name. But it lets you target a player and return all. This card lets you target a player and return all warriors on their side of the field. So this, as a final answer, you let your opponent negate. This is your final answer to angels, to titans, to them trying to end your day. You return all of their warriors after they've tried to negate. A lot of, like for an example, the Titan negate only works if you're targeting their card. This doesn't target a warrior, it targets a player. So it kind of works around that. So I'm going to put that up here as kind of the heavy Bloodborne cost cards. These are the no-cost, tricky, kind of control-based cards. Deflect is another card that I just say should go in every deck. This comes in the battle decks. You get one of all of the basic bounty realms. These are ones that are very undervalued in my opinion. We've got our big bad 5 attack warrior. I won't go too much into that. If you've looked at the set, it is beautiful art, but having some attack power and having 3 of them are very important just to have the power there. So I'm actually going to start making a little pile of my warriors as I go through this too. So we've got Dalgo, the Blastforged Tunnel Digger. So he's a very handsome man. I love his mustache. And he's got this cool contraption he's digging with these shovels. And Plunder is the ability where your opponent cuts your deck, and then you draw a card from where they cut, they set it back down. Once you start to play with players, it goes very fast. So it is just a nice warrior. And again, when you're able to do 3 Plunders in a turn with Diary of the Blastforge, it just keeps that hand control. Now I lean into, and as a control player, I like to play Kindlehoss. So Kindlehoss is the Exalted for the Dwarves. Is a very, very beautiful card, and he has 2 very powerful effects. He has Shockwave and Gust, and then when he dies, he has Perish, Shockwave, and Gust. I guess that's 3 abilities technically, right? So the Shockwave lets you destroy a warrior with original attack of 2 or less, and Gust lets you target a warrior on the field and return it to the controller's hand. And then obviously the Perish lets you do that again, right? So very powerful card. The reason this card is so powerful, and I'm just going to sort through and grab her now while I'm here, is because of the uncommon Stogafrost, Blastforged Flamekeeper. So her Perish ability is to conscript or revive Kindlehoss, which for a control player like me just is a very good way of keeping your board full, disrupting your opponent, and then you're constantly able to use cards like Journey Through Glacier Pass, because even if they destroy a warrior before a card like this resolves, you still have a warrior on the field to protect you as well. So very cool. So yeah, I have a couple copies of that. Again, Dismantle. Again, this is a one of in every battle deck. This is your negate a fortified, don't draw next turn. I have mixed feelings about that, because if you don't have the hand advantage and you have to play a card like that, it can be a game changer. It can be the reason you lose a game is not drawing, right? So I was actually thinking about siding that out, but I played against Demons last night, so it was definitely needed for sure. I was actually also playing, I guess I did a poor job siding out. I was actually playing against Demons and Titans as well, and Blastforge Blast Shield is the free card. It's a free fortified. Activate this card when a target player declares an attack with a warrior with attack of 4 or more. So you do have to fulfill that. You'll find that happens a lot in this game. And then it says if you return all warriors the target player controls with attack of 4 or more to the hand. So it does not target, and returns them all to the hand. And then you get to deal 4 damage to the target player's warlord if you return 2 or more. So kind of just like little chip damage, and that's one I actually run at a 3 of as well. I'll pull it out here and we'll get started. So that's actually going to go in the free pile to play. Now this isn't necessarily because I love what this card effect does. It is a cool card, but the text is very interesting. I'll let you guys look at that when I'll have a pop up here when I post the video on YouTube. But this card can only be equipped to a Blastforged Dwarf Warrior. Bestow +6 attacks to the equipped warrior at the end of the turn. This card was equipped. Destroy the equipped warrior. If this card is in your discard pile, you can target one card in the field and eradicate this card. Destroy the targeted card. So this is a unified. As it's being destroyed at the end of your turn, you can eradicate it. It synergizes with Runecast Reverb so that you can shuffle it back in. You can put it back on top of your deck and draw a card, and you can keep reusing that. So it's just a very powerful. I believe I run that at a 2 of. I might have a third one in my side. We'll check for sure. Rodolka's Prayer Gauntlets. I wasn't playing this a lot. I think I need to run more dwarves to make this really powerful. But basically, it's Bloodborne 2. You can only activate it when your dwarf warrior is being attacked directly. The cool thing about this one is it's not by a warrior. It could be by a warlord. It could be by a warrior. It doesn't matter. And it lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal any of the dwarf warriors from among them, conscript the revealed dwarf warriors to your side of the field, and then add the rest of the cards to your hand. So it restores your hand. It's very cheap to play, and it gives you more dwarves. Again, I don't have enough dwarves, so I think I need to maybe up my numbers here. Going back into the Plunder, we've got Gilar, the Blastforge Inspector. He has the exact same effect as Dalgaria's Plunder. So your opponent has your deck, they draw a card. Again, I've run 6, so it's just good hand advantage. You play it's a 1-for-1, and Plunder is Wisdom's cool because you can draw 2 cards, put 1, so you kind of get a little bit more choice. But Plunder digs into the deck, so it does. I've given my opponent very powerful cards by doing this. I've gotten very powerful cards by doing this. So Plunder is a very powerful mechanic. We're back to Stolga Frost. Again, I run her at a 3 of. You can only run 1 Kindlehoss, so it's very important to have 3 of her, 1 Kindlehoss. You don't have to have the Kindlehoss, but that's just for the control side of the deck. Again, I have mixed feelings about this card as well. I might side this one out. There's another 5 attack warrior. So activate this card when your opponent has attacked with at least 1 warrior they control. So in certain decks, like Titans, you might be almost dead anyway. Alright, as an additional cost to play this card, eradicate 1 Blastforge card in your discard pile. Definitely can synergize with Runecast. Doesn't always, right? Target 1 attacking warrior on the field, return the targeting warrior to the owner's hand. So this can be very easily negated by the Titan support card because it does target them, and it's a very steep cost. It doesn't cost Bloodborne, and even, I'm talking myself out of it. I'm going to put it in the side right now. So we're going to take it out. It's a cool card to avoid that cost. I think against demons, against angels, in those sorts of mashups, very powerful. My strongest disadvantage I'd find with this deck would be Titans. Orcs can very easily plow through because they can just keep coming back. And I mean, these are the things I'm trying to prepare for going into the 4K if I choose to run dwarves. So next going to it, we have Blastworth Armory. So once per turn, you can play Bloodborne 10. So this isn't active, it stays on the field, very powerful. Target X number of Blastforge cards in your discard pile, shuffle the targeted cards back into your deck. This works on Warriors, Unifieds, and Fortifieds. Not Dwarf cards, so it only works on the Blastforge stuff. So again, of these are the only 2 that work here. So it's just finding that balance, right? And then if you do bestow X attack to all Dwarf Warriors on your side of the field, where X is the amount of Blastforge cards shuffled by this card's effect. So the key part of this, and speaking of, or looking at Fingar, Fingar gives you Dwarf Warrior tokens. So you can give a permanent buff to your Frostbite Dwarves, and it's a very powerful mechanic. It breaks holy counters very easily. It's a very easy way to prevent your opponent from swinging through a control-based board like what I've built here. We're back to Delgo. Oh, here's a new one I want to share with you guys. So, Slora, the Blastforge Apprentice. Again, this is the warrior I mentioned with Retrieve. She can target Unifieds or Fortifieds that are Dwarf. That's the mechanic, is Retrieve only targets the same as the realm that they're in. Blastforge Melt Cannon, getting the Blastforge Shield, getting the cards to stop your opponent from one-turning you, getting back your Nisty's Cleaver to be able to negate and then pop a card again. It's all very powerful mechanics, and it gives you kind of some options there, so it's very cool. Again, there's my Blastforge Blast Shield. I've got my third copy of Journey Through Glacier's Pass, again, reminiscent of my battle against Titans last night. Another Rodolka's Prayer Gauntlet, again, cost 2, and look at the top 3 and Conscript. This is one that's actually from Ravaged Lands. I have mixed feelings about this one. This is definitely a side for certain matches. It's Trap in the Black Powder Room. Once per turn, you can pay Bloodborne 4, target one warrior on the field that is attempting to activate a keyword ability, negate the activation of the targeted warrior's keyword ability, and return the targeted warrior to the owner's hand. So it's against orcs. They don't care. They can just summon more or conscript more. But with like angels, getting them attempting to use wisdom, them attempting to give sanctify and things like that, it's very easy to stop them from having that board by doing that. So it's definitely a side card. Now I do have a second copy of Nisty's Cleaver. I do have 3 copies of Diary of the Blastforge Survivor. Chat Twitch, I'm here if you want to ask questions about angels. Okay, I appreciate. I'll do angels next. Oh, yeah, I'll do that next, because I do actually have a pretty good angel deck built, and that will be one of the big metas for the 4K. That will be one of the ones to beat. So it'll be nice to kind of have some knowledge of how their cards work and how to break them. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. DLR, the Blastforge Inspector. Again, I run that at a 3. Blastworth Armory. So that I didn't do as bad as a job describing it as I thought, but I only run this as a 2 because you can shuffle it back in. It can be grabbed with Retrieve, but if you have 2 in your hand, you're already losing, right? So that is a steep card to play, but again, it can be a game finisher. You have a bunch of cards in your discard, you shuffle that in, you fill your board, and you swing, right? So, another Kelter's Explosive Kit, again, synergizes with Runecast, another Prayer Gauntlets. I'm even going to side out that third Nisty's, because again, I was playing Demons, and then I didn't side out properly, and when I did Titans, so that shouldn't have been in there. But it's a very costly card to play, and with Retrieve, you maybe don't need to have 3 in your in your deck. Kelter's Explosive Kit, again, I run that at a 3. It's a search, it's an Arad, and it synergizes with Runecast. It's very powerful. So here's ones from the battle deck that I play. This is one I've tempted to side out if I don't choose to keep more warriors. It's a once per turn. If a Blastworth Dwarf warrior is conscripted to your side of the field, target one card on the field, return the targeted card to the owner's hand. Getting rid of the Unifieds, the stuff that doubles holy counters, the warriors with 86 attack on them, things like that. It's very nice to do that. On the other hand, you're playing against some guys like orcs. You're playing against demons. They're just going to set certain cards back down anyway. So it's maybe not as useful in some cases. If this card is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can target one card in the field, return the targeted card to the owner's hand. So useful. It's free to play. So that's always cool. Again, there's my third 5 attack warrior. There's my second Blastforge cannon. There's my third Delgo, Blastforge Blast Shield. So I did do 2 copies of Deflect in my Demons matchup. Again, I'm just looking at this. I did a terrible job siding. I hope you guys don't judge me. And Black Blast from the Blast Shield. So again, free to play. And so yeah, I do run 2 of the Slora, the Blastworth Apprentice. So she does have the retrieve ability to grab those unifieds back. So there are only the 3 retrieve warriors. So it's just nice to be able to get them back and do that sort of stuff. So that is kind of my deck tech on my basic deck tech on dwarves here. You know, we've got a few viewers here, and if you guys have any questions while I'm doing it, by all means. I'm trying to talk about this synergy. I'm trying to talk about how I'm using my control-based dwarves, and really the cards that are good against what you're going to be going against in the tournaments, in the 4K, the tournament this weekend at Devil's Bench. So these are just the things to think about as you're going for that. Let me look at my side. So I'd almost side more of those over like a Nisty's Cleaver, over another of the Black Powder Room, because while this is powerful and it's only cost 4, it does give them the resource back to their hand, so it's not always perfect, right? Yeah, we talked about Land of Defiance, we talked about Drain the Magic Quarry. Never Shake the Cold. This is a cool one. It costs Consume instead of Bloodborne. So Consume is your Guardian's cost. If you don't have a Guardian, you have a base pool of 30, so you can use this about 3 times. So it negates the activation of 1 unified card in the field and destroy it. And then all opposing players draw 1 card. I'd like to point out it says all opposing players. There might be more players be able to play at one time, it sounds like. So that's kind of cool. So the negate the activation of the unified and destroy it speaks for itself. Very powerful. Something I like, and I might side more of those in. Just the extra draw isn't huge. You just have to hope they don't draw into something that's going to help them. Severed Connection. I side 2 of those just to get rid of the fortifieds. You got Mythical Beasts. You've got some cards in the Angel deck that don't really protect themselves that you can remove. Sorry, Demons. You've got the back row on some Titan cards and stuff that it's just nice to get rid of. I do side an extra Runecast Reverberation. I might take that out because I don't see myself using more than 2. So these are ones that's almost like a different strat altogether, and this is where I might come back and you guys can, if you guys are building dwarves or you guys are kind of interpreting what I'm saying about what's going to come. The other build for dwarves, because there's Blastforge and Alehouse's archetypes, but I've kind of built a Blastforge control. The other build for Blastforge is a Blastforge, they call it Oops Lots of Dudes. So it's a very conscript heavy, very revive heavy build that relies on, you might have 25 to 30 warriors in your deck, so it's just very much you're just constantly bringing stuff out, which synergizes a lot with some of the cards that come in the deck. So take it as you will. These are all things to keep in mind as you are building, doing things. The final card I think I was going to highlight here. Just go through here. There's a few like that speak for themselves. Into the Blastforge. This is one I like. Each time a Blastforge Dwarf Warrior is conscripted to your side of the field, reveal the top card of your deck. So I mean, again with the Oops Lots of Dudes build, this is perfect. You're revealing. You got over 50% of your deck is dudes, and you've got a very high chance of being able to reveal it, conscript it, and then if you've played into the Blastforge, you can pop a card. So it's cool. Yeah, again, I like the Dismantle. This is one I'm going back and forth on. We're going to see how the meta goes. It's almost a key card in some instances, but on the other hand, it is very expensive to play, right? So it's just something to think about as we're going. So that is a little bit of my dwarf deck tech here. Not a lot of people in right now. I hope that answers some of the questions, and it kind of gives you guys an idea of what to expect as the synergy, how things go, and when you're playing against dwarves, you do have to keep in mind that they are going to try to bring back more and more dudes on your turn just to keep the wall even in my control build. So it's just something to just have that in the back of your mind. You have that extra, I'm going to remove that last guy so I can go for the kill. So something to keep in mind for sure.